some of you know is bee balm and some of those other Oswego tea and that. There's Bernarda here. Got asters in here. And of course, what's actually is a lot of wing stem, sneezeweed, brown-eyed Susans back in here if you walk through. The goldenrod's kind of taking it over right now. Goldenrod, again, we're looking to, it's a good thing to feed pollinators and provide insects. All those insects are food for foraging turkeys and other birds. As far as our fence rows are concerned, this fence row is a little different than the last one. You can see that this is basically going to be it's eventually going to be one big line of tulip poplars. But you'll notice the edge has been cut. We maintain these edges to try and keep them in thicker stuff, a transition between field and fence row. We use in a forest setting, we use a machine called a hydroaxe for actually cutting through maple birch forest or regenerating an aspen stand. In here we actually do have a boom mower. We actually have a tiger mower attached to the side of a tractor, and we'll come through here and cut this stuff back. Unfortunately on this game lands, when you do that, you end up with mostly multiflora rose and autumn olive. I mean, that's what's on the back side over there. If you want me to, if anybody wants to know what autumn olive looks like, or multiflora rose. Yeah, and that's a multiflora rose thicket, but nonetheless, we don't like it. It's unhuntable, but the wildlife does eat the rose hips. Here's a praying mantis hunting dinner in here. So again, diversity doesn't just mean plant species or plant communities or the component. It also means age class, whether you're cutting this stuff off for succulent growth and leaving that to be somewhat woody growth and being soft mass and then getting mature trees. That's also diversity also. 3 yards wide. Now that's a fence row. You know, people say, well, I don't know what happened to the ringneck pheasant because there's still fence rows all over the place. Well, a fence row isn't a single line of trees with a shrub on either side of it, you know. That's not a fence row. This is a fence row. Lots of cover, lots of diverse species. On the outside here, a lot of crab apples. Apples, we put in hawthorns. If they're not already here, we'll plant this. Again, soft mass, but when you have this transition of winter thermal cover, cover for birds to nest in, to roost in, for deer to lay underneath in bad weather, and then fruit and stuff on the outside, and then agricultural crops on the inside, and you got something going on. You know, so that's what we try and strive for. You come out, stand that you're standing in is primarily a big blue and little blue stems warm season grass, meaning that it grows in warm season, the middle of the summer. As we all know, April comes, May comes, you're mowing like crazy at your house, starts getting drier, hotter. Next thing you know, you're mowing every 2 weeks. And in August, did anybody mow at all? I don't know. You know, this stuff was still growing. It's warm season grasses. And then now we're going to get the mowers back out because the cool season grasses are going to start growing in your yard again. This stuff's going to start to die off. This is warm season grass. Roots to like 30 feet. Once you have it here, it's drought resistant. It's just great cover. That's what it's here for. It's mostly here for cover. We have warm season, we have big blue, which is this one here, which is very tall. Little blue stems about this high, and there's some of that mixed in here. We plant in Indian grass with it, which are all different species of warm season grasses. You may have heard of switchgrass. Switchgrass we use basically by itself because it's very aggressive and it will take over an entire stand, which is not, we're not just about feeding the deer and the bear and whatever. I mean, there's a lot of animals that benefit from that, and so my crew here is very good about it. They're nature lovers, they're butterfly lovers, they're bird lovers, they're wildflower lovers, and so we look for diversity
in grass. But a complex like this, where you can have these hedgerows, some perennial covers, and then some annual food plots, short term. I mean, that's just a great mix for wildlife, and that's what we strive for. You know, Scott does. This is an area they manage for rabbits, and keeping that in short grasses there, it certainly benefits his rabbit management also.
Part of our overall forestry goal, obviously, is sustainability. What that means is we take that forest resource, we manage that resource, and we continue that forest resource. That's critical to our mission. That's vital to a forested game lands. The last thing we want to do is have failures. So we work very hard at the silviculture, the art and science of growing trees, to get results that are going to be sustainable and obviously replicate what should be or could be on that site. The history of this site is pretty simple. This was large tulip and some smaller tulip. It had splice bush higher than your head. You could not walk through here.
You could walk underneath it.
You could walk underneath. You could walk underneath it easier than you can walk here. But you couldn't walk. There was nothing getting down to the forest floor. We herbicided it in 2001 in a shelterwood harvest where we left our best seed trees, tried to get that light regime starting to come in. It was harvested in 2003. The tulip exploded. We had tulip seedlings numbers in the 20,000+ per acre. Really good. We let it grow for 3 years. We probably should only waited 2 years because the tulip was up here at 3 years old. Because then you get into logging damage. As you're felling trees and removing, you're going to knock some of that down. So we probably should have done it in 2 years. It grew faster than we anticipated. It was removed in 2006. Went fall 2006, and go from there. This was where they loaded the logs. It was reseeded and graded. Scott the farmer said you had straw bales in here or hay bales, or
Some hay.
So that's why it's scuffed up right now. It's starting to revert. We still have clover. We still have trefoil in here, things like that. This is part of our management to get that early successional forest habitat. That real thick, dense cover. Nesting cover, escape cover, winter thermal cover, and food. And this is what's lacking not only on game lands in a lot of areas, but across the whole northeastern part of the U.S. It's the most critical habitat in the forest system that's not there today. And if you look at any of the lists from Audubon or any of the other conservation organizations, generally one of their criteria that's really lacking is this early successional habitat. The only way you get that is to manage the forest resource, planned approach, get to the end, get your regeneration there. At that point you can take all fed over story. And that's what we've done here. This is basically our program, what we're doing throughout the game lands. We have an inventory of the whole property. We know how many acres we have of tulip, how many of oak, how many of everything else in great detail. And then we formulate where we want to take it over time to provide that habitat for wildlife. That's our job.